With a new horror game, Silent Hill F, on the horizon, I thought to myself, why don't I rank all the previous Silent Hill games from the worst to the best? Most importantly, I wanted to share my opinion with you guys, so I started by organizing the game and replaying the ones I had played a long time ago and didn't remember well, to ensure my opinion is modern and not based on nostalgia. The games I will mention will be the full-fledged platform design title, meaning PT and Ascension will not be included in the ranking. Alright, let's begin. At number 10, we have Silent Hill Short Message. I wasn't going to include it on the list because it's so short, but the game's story and journey felt like a full-fledged title, so I decided to include it. Short Message was truly enjoyable, but it's definitely not enough to combat with the giants of the Silent Hill franchise. It's also lake puzzle, which made its short length even more apparent. However, in the end, Short Message is still considered a fun title experience, and it's definitely worth spending 2 hours on it. At number 9, we have Silent Hill Shattered Memory. This game introduced fun features like exploration, a mystery story, and engaging puzzle. It also had the ability to use your phone, which influenced you how you solve puzzles. However, one of the flaws of Shattered Memory is that it strayed too far from what Silent Hill game typically offers. The first world is devoid of monsters, and in the other world there's only one type of monsters, with a poor design, making you feel like the game's budget ran out during their creation. For this reason, the game has no healing items or usable weapons. Additionally, the design of the other world is a completely different feelings, like a snowy world rather than the hellish one we're used to, which pulled me out of the Silent Hill atmosphere. Despite that, Shattered Memory is still a beautiful game and absolutely worth experiencing. At number 8, we have Silent Hill Origins. This game still mentions the atmosphere of the first 4 games in the series, which I enjoyed from the beginning. The puzzles were carefully designed, and the ability to travel between the 2 worlds at will to solve them added to their value. The horror atmosphere and encounters were truly enjoyable, and I also loved the backstory of the protagonist Travis. However, one of the game's flaws was the story, which I felt was repetitive and didn't add anything new to deepen the original story of the series. The map was also unnecessarily large, but it remains a fun experience in the end. At number 7, we have Silent Hill Homecoming. My experience with it was actually better than some other players' experience, and that's because it was the first Silent Hill game I ever played. This made me more accepting of its poor inspiration from Silent Hill 2 story. Despite that, I love the story, the engaging puzzle, and the terrifying boss fights that leave a lasting impression. But if I were to criticize anything, it would be the enemy design and combat. The combat was very difficult, and ammunition for weapons was extremely scarce, forcing you to rely heavily on melee weapons. Sometimes the game would force you to face a large number of enemies in the curtain section to progress. This made me think, guys, this isn't Resident Evil game, and it shouldn't even try to imitate it, because Silent Hill has its own unique style. But aside from the enemy combat, my experience with the game was very enjoyable. At number 6, we have Silent Hill Downpour. Silent Hill Downpour is an underrated game, in my opinion. This is due to its release period, which was dominated by online and action games, and the fact that the Silent Hill franchise was at low point. This greatly affected its sales and reviews, but despite that, I still see it as a genuinely fun game. Its deep story, sidecast, and engaging puzzle. Its only minor flaw is the weak weapons mechanic. Silent Hill Downpour is an underrated game and deserves a second look. At number number 5, we have Silent Hill 1. This game was the launchpad for this great series that inspired many horror games. Its story and cutscene design were reminiscent of Hollywood movies, and the design of the location and dense fog, which was originally meant to cover up poor frame rates and performance, later became a core element of the game and a source of horror and mystery. It was a truly wonderful experience, but the problem is that when I went back to it a few years later, I found that the game's performance had become a bit dated, so I recommended that new players wait for the remake to have a great experience. At number 4, we have Silent Hill 4: The Room. This is the second underrated game for me after Downpour. The reason is that it literally delivered what the audience wanted: new and creative ideas while mentioning the core of the series. The game was so terrifying that even the safe room which you would retreat to would eventually started to have monsters enter it, and you wouldn't be able to relax. This make you feel unsafe in any part of the game. I still ask myself how such a great game could be developed in just 10 months. Unfortunately, the game's mediocre reviews and unsatisfactory sales were what led Konami to dissolve Team Silent, but this is still a hidden game, and I'm sure you guys understand what I mean. At number 3, we have Silent Hill 2. This game commended her place in the player's heart upon its release. I don't know where to begin. Should I start with its deep and tragic story, or its masterfully crafted and intelligent level design, or the carefully designed and well thought out enemies, or its profound and memorable music? It's a flawless game, and I don't see any flaws in it. The game takes about 6 or 7 hours to complete, which it's a perfect and seamless short experience. At number 2, we have Silent Hill 3. This is game I have replayed over and over again more than any other Silent Hill game. Its art direction and facial expression were ahead of their time. You play the first half of the game in a location outside of Silent Hill before moving there in the second half. It was one of my most terrifying experiences with Silent Hill. Also, the remake will take a while, but I will be waiting for it impatiently. Number 1, Silent Hill 2 Remake. When I saw the initial ad for the remake and saw the control and aiming performance along with unstable frame rate, I said to myself, the idea for the remakes was a mistake and it won't be able to match the original. But upon its release, I realized the Silent Hill 2 Remake had surpassed the original. The level design became wider and longer. The remake is twice the length of the original game, but mentions a huge amount of non-repetitive fun. There are details in the game that I didn't even expect. For example, when a player uploaded information of showing that when James was looking at Maria with a cell separating them, the player zoomed in on his eyes to discover that he was looking at an empty chair, which shows how insane James is. When I imitated the players and reached the game end, I found his word to be true, and when James was walking in the city streets and passed by the glass of storefronts, you could notice that the reflection of James' head took a pyramid shape with a dark lighting, a great dark symbolism. To be honest, this symbolism means much more to me than the graphics that some people see, making Silent Hill 2 Remake the best Silent Hill game for me and one of the most beautiful horror games. Well, we have reached the end of the video. Share in the comment what your favorite Silent Hill games is and why. I would love to know your opinion. If you like the video, don't forget to click like button and subscribe to receive all news content. Alright, see you later.